right, welcome back to our main conversation now. With over 20 million Nigerians living abroad, the diaspora remains a powerful economic force, sending billions in annual remittances. Yet for many, integrating into Nigeria's formal financial system has been hampered by administrative barriers, including the in-person BVN requirement. Now, that's what the Central Bank of Nigeria is now trying to change through the Non-Resident BVN, NRBVN platform, a move that could unlock access to banking, investment and remittance services for Nigerians abroad. Now, to help analyze this development, I'm joined by Tolu Olaniyan, a global development practitioner with expertise in public policy, financial systems, and global development trends. Tolu, many thanks for joining us on Business Insights on Plus TV Africa.
Good morning and thanks for having me, Justin.
Before we really get into all of that, let's start from this way, maybe informally. What's been your experience, maybe interactions with people, maybe in the diaspora as regards this whole BVN thingy and then banking transactions? Let's start from that place.
Okay, so I think this is a right step in the right direction first. Because Nigerians in the diaspora have suffered a lot. Suffered a lot when it comes to financial service delivery, right? A lot of time you want to operate your local account in Nigeria, and they're saying, oh, your BVN is this, your BVN is that, you need to do this regularization, and it's become like it's become really cumbersome, right? But I think now with this, you're able to do it electronically. There's like better process around it. So I think, yes, this is a right step in the right direction. So
the timing is right now, but does it actually, with this NRBVN, does it actually solve the real problems of Nigerians abroad in terms of, transacting financially? Is it just the BVN that's the main issue? But does this introduction, really solve the matter?
Like I always say, it's first in first. Okay. Right?
Yes.
So you have local banks, but you can't sync your local bank with your international account and none of it. I'm sure this is just moving towards that way to say that, oh, okay, now you can even, from a diaspora, some people like coming to Nigeria. Some people can't come to Nigeria as often, right?
Yes, it is actually expensive.
Yeah, it's actually expensive to come to Nigeria often. I know people who have had issues that the bank would ask them, you need to regularize your BVN. So how do I then do that? I don't live in Nigeria.
So think of return ticket here and then.
Yeah, and some people would say, and it takes a whole lot of process, right? So I think it's first in first, one step at a time, and also in the right direction. Does this solve the problem? Does this solve the general problem around financial service delivery and expectations of people of Nigerians in diaspora? Maybe not totally, right? But I think this is first in first. Since the BVN is able to be able to have a registration with the bank, right? A financial registration with the bank that cuts across all of the bank. I think this is a very first good step.
Okay, another thing that that has actually come to the fore is that it is not done free. I don't know if it makes sense, because right now there is some sort of a registration fee. That's $50. I don't know if I can do the exchange rate in Nigeria.
1,006.
1,006. That should be about how much? 80,000.
That's about 80,000.
So you're spending 80,000 just to do a registration just because you're abroad. I'm just trying to put everything side by side. While Nigerians here living in Nigeria, they actually do it for free. So I don't know, what are your thoughts really on this registration fee?
Yes, so I totally agree, right, with the processing fee. Right?
You agree with it?
Yeah, I agree with processing fee. Okay. I agree that for a service like this, there should be a processing fee, right? A handling fee. But again, I think that there are better ways around it, right? We're not really sure how this would work. We're not sure what the adoption would be. So I would have recommended that at first this is left open, and then we find a way to upscale, and the system find a way to upscale and then begin to charge, right? But I think in the immediate, charging people, gating it would also reduce the rate of adoption, right? I think it's probably left open. See what questions people have, right? And one of the biggest pain that Nigerians have also is pay for services that you will not enjoy, right? So this is not one of those services that you will pay for and will not enjoy, right? So I think it's then safer that we first leave it open allow people to enjoy the service, get feedback and reviews from the service, then you can then get it through a processing fee, right? Because as it is now, we're not sure how it will work. Even the local BVN, to get it, I mean, when we're in Nigeria, to get to sign up and get it regularized, get a link to all of your banks.
Is this a bottleneck?
Yeah, it's a bottleneck. You need to start going from here to this place, right? So what will be different with this one, right? Let's leave it open at first. They are Nigerians. Let's leave it open at first. And then if you need to then access a service or this service, we can then, get it and say, okay, $50. We would think $50 is probably a very small. A lot of people who do local remittance, who do who move funds back to Nigeria, a lot of them, they don't find $50 as something pretty small, right? So that's like work wage for say 2-3 hours. I mean, as the case may be, it's probably not that small, right? So I think that we can first leave it open and for free, and then get it as time goes on.
Okay, now the ultimate goal for all of this is actually financial inclusion, as they have stated. That's the CBN and all of that. But let's analyze it and look at it. Now, what measurable outcomes should we be watching out for?
Okay, so I think first, right, it's safe to say it's financial inclusion, right? But like I always say, while you're focused on financial inclusion for the people at the top, also focus on financial inclusion for the people at the bottom, right? Now, if this is financial inclusion, as it said, I think that one of the most important elements of all of this conversation is that we want to be able to gauge the volume of our diaspora remittance, right? I think that's it. Now, some of the things that we then need to look out for would be, number one, what are we then able to do with the information that we gather? And what are we also able to do with the funds that are being, pushed in back into the country? Will this also, while this is increasing our GDP and all of it, would it also reduce like interest rates and all of those things in terms of the investment that these people have in Nigeria, so that they can also be able to, so these are some of the things that we then need to begin to look out for. But most importantly is what are the byproducts? We need to look out for more byproducts, services and advisory that would follow this process. Yes, we need financial inclusion. Yes, people in diaspora need to be included. But importantly, what are the things that follow, right? That are of benefits to these people? Because in all honesty, if you push back money to Nigeria, so to be honest, what are the values? What's the value, right? Because by the time it's being denominated in Naira, all of it, you probably don't want to keep money in Naira. A lot of people don't want to keep money in Naira at this time because, it seems like the currency is losing value, right? So we need to then begin to design like incentives that would make this a worthy venture for people.
Okay, before we talk about global best practices, let's stay on financial inclusion now that we have mentioned it. Generally, this the CBN has been talking about getting everyone included financially, be it locally, those in the diaspora. But let's even look at the nitty-gritty, for people maybe in the hinterlands. How would you say the whole financial inclusion drive have been so far?
So I think that the CBN is currently doing a whole lot, which I think is quite commendable. The very big conversation around the open banking is there. Digital banking. I think a bit more regulation around fintechs. And support for fintechs as compared to last administration. I think this time is a bit more and a bit welcome. And I think it's absolutely beautiful, right? I think it's been done. However, I think that a lot more efforts should be made around simplifying processes around financial inclusion and for people at the grassroots, right? While we're trying to get people in diaspora to be financially included, I think that people at the grassroots in the country also need to be included, right? But I think that what we've seen in recent time has been some very good financial inclusion conversation and models, and policies being delivered by the CBN. I think this is quite commendable. Okay,
let's look at global best practices like I had just mentioned before. Let's compare with some other countries that are even as populous as we are, India, Pakistan. If you look at what they have done and how we are doing it, place them side by side. Is it the best way to go, that the approach that we are doing, or how did they do their own, if you have researched them, that is?
Oh, okay, so to be honest, right, I think that what it is now is is a very good first step. This is where we should have been some 10, 15 years ago, right? Before
So just suddenly woke up.
Yes, before the upsurge in people moving. I mean, in global mobility, right? So this is a global mobility conversation, and I think it's an interesting first step, right? I am also very much, very much aware that we're not sure what the next 20 years will be, what the next 10 years will be, what the next 5 years will be. But from where we are now, I think it's beautiful, right? I mean, Pakistan, India. And China, or developed countries, some other developing countries already have these models and this system put in place already, and you're able to transact. In fact, you need to, I can't explain to you the pain and the torture that some people in Europe, one that I know, like in Europe, go through in terms of financial transactions in Nigeria. It's big pain, right? But I think this is a first step, right? I think building on it, and then working through it and ensuring that the process is well executed.
Okay. So let me even comment there. Speaking of well execution and know how they can go. Let's talk about partnerships, for instance. I know you said this is a first step, a step in the right direction, but what other reforms or maybe some sort of partnership do you think are critical to achieving, and to drive real usage of this particular platform?
Okay, so I think that one very important partnership would be to partner with the fintechs, right? So these fintechs have found a way to localize the content and then speak the languages of, and a bit more flexible as compared to the traditional banks, the commercial banks and all of it. So I think it's then very important to partner with these fintechs to be able to take the conversation forward and then see how we're able to move through it, right? A couple of technology platforms you can use to move money around. You can use to now, if you now have your BVN signed up on this bank, so the fintech also know who you are. You can use the technology platform to sign up for your BVN, and everything is in sync, right? So I think it totally works. Now, if you're in the diaspora, if you're abroad, and you want to be able to have like transaction in Nigeria. Or even around the world, all you just need to do is your residence details in that country, right? Now, if you need to be able to sync your Nigerian bank account into it, you can then use your eBVN or your new BVN or non-resident BVN. So I think that partnership with those organizations will be those fintechs will be very, very critical to this. I also know that there are networks and bodies of people in diaspora. I think this should also be leveraged to increase the advocacy for this service, for this policy, just so that it can also increase adoption, right? Because this is one confidence spot that Nigerians have as compared to the Nigerian government as it were. So they know that we form this cluster in our country, in our space, and we believe in this, right? So I think partnering with those clusters could also go a long way in advocating.
But I'm still worried about maybe infrastructure, maybe technology or something. Looking at our antecedents, in the financial sector, how strong, viable are the Nigerian? You've talked about fintechs, I know, so that's like some very wonderful news that has happened to the financial system recently and all that. But how efficient are our own core banks, the traditional banks? Because most people still have to go through the traditional banks for this, but do you see any challenge in terms of maybe infrastructure or maybe tech issues as regards driving home this particular drive from the commercial bank angles?
Yeah, so from the commercial bank angle, I think what we need to do is to simplify this process as much as possible, and then train and retrain the handlers of these services, right? It feels it's painful when even while we're in the diaspora and you call your Nigerian bank to get an information or how to walk through something, and the person who is taking the call, who is ideally supposed to be the customer support person, is unaware or is uninformed or even needs more information, right? Sometimes you're calling and you're the one telling the person
the things that they should know,
the things that they should know and how they should walk through what they should walk through, which is really very painful, right? So I think on the side of the commercial banks and the traditional banks that we have. I think it's also to simplify the process and train and retrain their personnel in ways that will simplify the process. Because I mean, if you're calling your bank customer service, you're calling to be able to get solution, right? It's frustrating when you're unable to get information or result out of this. So I think that like simplifying the process and training and retraining the staffs.
Okay, finally, let's just bring it down to the microeconomic level, because I know you do a whole lot of things with the people at the grassroots. Now, in terms of financial inclusion, what's the latest from your end? And that's the Enterprise Growth and Opportunities Foundation, and then the She Enable Project and all of the other things that you're doing to drive financial inclusion. What's the latest so far?
Oh yeah, I mean, thanks. So some of the things that we're now trying to work on around financial inclusion is to see how we're able to work with people at the grassroots in terms of proper system build for them to be able to access nano loans, right? Over the last few years, loan sharks have taken over everywhere, and these businesses, because they are unable to access loans,
they feel stifled.
And they then resolve to only accessing loans through loan sharks, and the interest are usually very crazy, and eventually it wrecks their businesses. So what we're now working around is helping a lot of these people build basic process around their businesses, and then also having a conversation with financial institutions to be able to help these people with little or no collateral access some level of funding where they're able to then push back. I mean, so one of our programs is around the revolving loan that we're working with the financial institution to say, so within the cluster and the community, can we have like revolving loans where these women get the loan? I mean, we stand as
guarantors or something.
Guarantors for them because they belong to our cluster and our community. They get this loan, make use of it with a time frame period, and then return it with almost no interest, and then it moves around that way, right? So the women are able, or the women or the people or the artisans are able to hold themselves accountable to this because I mean it's within the cluster, and I mean for our pilot phase, this has been quite helpful for the businesses, and we're then looking to take it like forward from there.
We wish you all the best, Tolu Olaniyan, in all that
so
you do in terms of financial inclusion and of course empowering women at the grassroots. Tolu Olaniyan, Global Development Practitioner, many thanks for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Justin.
All right. Now, policies make the news, but performance shapes the future. As Tolu Olaniyan rightly pointed out, the success of the NRBVN platform will depend not just on policy intention, but on execution, accessibility, and the trust it builds across borders. If Nigeria can get it right, this could be a defining move in building a globally connected financial system that excludes our diaspora. But if poorly implemented, it risks becoming yet another digital promise that failed to meet its human potential. Well, that's it on Business Insights today. I am Justin Akadonye. Stay curious, stay bold, and as always, stay informed and stay ahead. Bye for now. See you again next time.